Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. My pleasure to be here with you guys today. And I've got a bit of a treat for you guys because I know this is a topic that a lot of people go, finances. Do I really have to talk about my finances? And, for some, it's kind of like one of those moments where you want to lift up the rug, sweep it all under there, and just shut it down and walk all over it. But today, I want to share with you my very special guest because this is an extremely important topic. Like it or loathe it, it's one of those things that we have to get on top of as business owners. And before I introduce the wonderful Melissa, who's going to share with you all her tips, tricks, and some tools and resources even that are going to help you to run a really profitable business, how to profit more and earn more so that you have a better business and a better life, because that's what being unlocked is all about, right? I want to share with you a few statistics. Now, way back in my previous life, I actually worked for a financial institution for over 25 years. I was a regional manager of that financial institution. And so I've seen my fair share of businesses who have thrived and also a lot of businesses that have failed. And when I originally left the banking world, I actually started my own consulting business that actually helped people in a number of different areas, and finances were one of them. So let me share with you these statistics, because once you hear these, you'll be like, gosh, yes, I need to pay more attention to this. I do not want to succumb to some of this, the maybe not so great statistical data that I'm about to share with you. And I need to listen up, and I need to listen to what Melissa's got to say so that I don't become a victim of one of these stats. So here we go. Why do businesses fail? And most businesses don't survive the first 5 years of business. Why is that? Usually it comes down to one of these five things, and finances feature a number of times. So the first one is 61% of businesses fail because they have poor management. 35% of businesses fail because they have a lack of financial knowledge. 37% of them fail because they have a lack of cash flow or capital. 37% because of poor marketing. 49% because of a poorly designed business model and or no business planning. You guys have heard me talk about business planning and I'm going to say my love for that in the past. So that being said, those are some global statistics. I hope that you're taking those on board and you're going, gosh, they're quite high. I don't want to find myself in any one of those realms. I need to listen to what Melissa's got to say. So let me tell you about Melissa. So Melissa comes to us all the way from Ottawa, Canada. She is a certified professional accountant, CPA, and a fractional CFO, I should say. She's the founder of a fractional CFO agency and also the host of the show The Business Society, which is also a podcast. She's also the founder of the businesssociety.co, where she actually helps successful business owners increase their profit margins. Don't we all want that? Without having to increase their sales so they can have more profit and cash in their pocket. She's got a real passion for helping women in business overcome their financial issues and earn more profit and have a better personal life and a better business that goes with it, right? She's got over 20 years experience in this particular field, working with both small and large corporations, governments, non-for-profit. So you could say that she knows a thing or two about the financing space. She's also the proud mother of two beautiful teenagers and a wife to the amazing Jamie. So welcome to the show, Melissa. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to meet you, Tracy.
You're very, very welcome. It's good to have you here. Well, look, let's talk a bit, because this is one of those topics, right? And you've probably seen this many a time where, a lot of people start out in business. Most of them have a real passion for what they do. Vast majority don't have a passion for dealing with their finances. However, we know as business owners, it's one of those things that has to be done. We have to get a handle on it, right? So give
Yeah.
us a little of your background, and why is it that you've become so passionate about this particular topic?
Yeah. So, I've been working as a CPA, like you mentioned, for over 20 years. And what I really noticed, whether I was working with project managers or small to medium sized business owners, what have you, there was a real lack of understanding their business numbers, right? So I knew that when we were doing their books and giving them really good financial advice to follow to help make their businesses more profitable, when we would meet them with them and talk to the business owner about these things, it was like, you could see their eyes glazing over and they weren't sure what we were talking about. And it just wasn't resonating with them, right? So I was like, this is not right. This is not right. Like I have to help business owners understand so that they can take away from these CPA meetings and implement all the financial knowledge that we can help them with on a day-to-day basis so that they make more profitable decisions in their business on a
Mm.
day-to-day basis. So that's essentially why I decided to go out on my own and start my own business, is to help business owners do this.
And that's fantastic because now you're really, putting your money where your mouth is, right? You're actually in the trenches with the business owners
Yeah.
doing the same stuff. So you absolutely know and understand what it is that they're going through. And what's interesting, like you talk about, being a CPA and talking to people about their finances, usually after the fact, come in, we're going to have a meeting, we're going to do your taxes. We're talking about things that have already happened in the past. But what I
Yeah.
love about what you've just said here is that you're equipping people with the skills and the knowledge to actually look at maybe a set of, financials or some data, or understanding what's going on in their business to be able to make better financial decisions, which prepares them for, what's coming next. So let's talk a little bit about, why, like that's a real shift, because a lot of accountants don't necessarily do that, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of them would be like, yep, come in, I'll do your tax return, but not really equipping that person with the skills and the knowledge to be able to make good financial decisions. What have you seen, like what are some of the fundamental things that you think business owners need to understand first and foremost so they are able to make better decisions?
Yes, and that's such a good question. And I don't teach business owners how to do accounting, right? So I teach
Mm,
them the high level information that they need to understand at the CEO level. So I created a 5-step framework. It's called the Cash Confident Framework, and it takes business owners through the journey of what you need to understand at that high level to operate your business finances better. And the first step is knowing your money mindset, because mindset is so important
mm,
as a business owner. And when you're aware of what's going on with your money mindset, which quite often is ignored, then you're aware of what's holding you back or what you can leverage as a business owner. And then it's also understanding your financial reports and creating a financial plan, like we were talking, like what you were
mm.
referring to earlier with the business plan. I mean, I'm right with you. That is one of my favorite things to do, is create the financial plan for the business. And then the fourth step is knowing how to monitor your progress against that plan. And then the fifth step is to make sure that you're managing the cash well in your business so that you don't face cash shortages and ultimately fail in a business.
Yeah, which, those statistical data, speaks to all of the things that you've just spoken
Exactly.
about there, right? It's really interesting. I want to delve a little bit deeper because number one for you is about mindset. And I think as you were explaining that, you're like, this is an area that a lot of people don't really understand. So let's unpackage that a little bit more. What do you mean by, understanding what your money mindset is?
Yeah, so I mean, it really starts with the relationship that you have with money, right? And everybody carries money baggage or a money story. And you've learned your money story likely, from early childhood. So if you have these memories of people telling you that wealthy people are not nice people, they're unkind, to be wealthy is to be a jerk, or maybe, you were growing up in a household where money was a constant stressor between your parents, and you've just automatically learned that money is stressful. Or if your neighbors were talking about people who have money are just not kind. So like your money story can go anywhere, right? And everybody
Mm,
has their own money story. And knowing how you feel about money and the relationship that you have with money will help you identify any issues that are holding you back as a business owner. So for example, if money you were taught was always stressful, and or maybe you've taught that debt is normal and you'll never be out of debt, if you're not looking at these money stories, then you're holding yourself back as a business owner as well, because chances are you'll be afraid of managing the money, or you'll be over leveraged in your business, or money troubles will creep into that.
Mm. And so once you understand what these are, the barriers or the blockages, then you can actually do something about it, right? Because otherwise it becomes a
Exactly.
recurring pattern that you're seeing over and over and over again. And sometimes you don't even realize that, oh gosh, that's my recurring money story that just keeps
Yes,
rearing its ugly head. So what are some
exactly.
like, because I with you, I think that's a really, really important piece of the puzzle. And like I know for me, I think back to my childhood and some of the stories that I heard, growing up, when money grow on trees, where do you think I am? Rockefeller, all of these sorts of things that you think are just sayings, but in fact, our programming, I suppose you'd call it, your subconscious mind to think about money in a certain way. So what are some, maybe just a couple of little tips that you might be able to impart for others to go, all right, now you've recognized, maybe, writing down all the money stories that you heard, and recognizing maybe some of the ones that are prominent for you. What can they do to start rewriting their money story?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I always recommend is to talk to somebody about it, whether it be a business coach or a therapist or what have you, depending on how deep seated the issue is. And just being aware and knowing that these problems exist, the awareness helps you prevent any, negative thoughts coming through and perpetuating that negative relationship with money, right? And
Mm,
when you start dealing with your money, I believe firmly action is like the best cure for any sort of money story that's holding you back. And when you start managing your finances and you get a good understanding of how your business runs, how you make it more profitable, how you're making money, and all that good stuff, you're creating a more positive relationship with money. And with action comes the financial confidence and the financial wherewithal, the knowing of how to make the right business decisions, right? So it
mm.
just ends up working itself out as well through the action of taking control of your finances.
Yeah, fantastic. And then that, I suppose, the second piece is where you're going now, is kind of that understanding. So understanding what's actually going on in your business. What are some of, like, for a business owner to understand what's happening? What are some of the high level um, areas or numbers that they should be across in their business?
Mhm. My number one KPI, key performance indicators, that I love business owners to be aware of, is your profit margins, right? So it's great to know how much profit you're bringing in, but if you're a business who's growing and you're looking at your profit margin from month to month and year over year or quarter over quarter, however you're looking at it, if you're seeing that your profit margins are shrinking, regardless of what your revenue, if like even if your revenue numbers are increasing, if your profit margin is shrinking, that is a huge red flag. So that is the most important
Mm,
KPI to watch, because what your profit margins are telling you is how hard or easy it is to create profit out of the sales revenue that you're generating. So if it's
mm.
shrinking, that's a bad sign. And if it's growing, it's a great sign. So making sure that you're monitoring these profit margins is absolutely important to ensure that you're creating the most profit you can in your business.
And I suppose, like, that is so topical in the moment that we're in, right? Because, like, in the environment we're in right now with COVID and what have you, the price of goods, is cost of goods sold is just going through the roof. So if you're not across all of that, where, last year you might have thought, hey, I've got some decent profit margins, I'm making some money, the price of goods goes up, all of a sudden your profit margins are starting to be eroded, and you look at you look at your end of year results and go, damn, what happened there? I didn't see
Exactly.
that coming. So,
Yeah.
how frequently would you recommend somebody keep an eye on this? Like what that number being so important, how frequently am I on that?
I mean, it's really going to depend on how large the business is, right? But I say absolutely nothing less than monthly. So, on a monthly basis, you should be looking at your financial reports. You should be looking at your income statement and your balance sheet. And you should be looking at different types of reporting that's suitable for your business and reporting on KPIs that you want to be monitoring to ensure that you're tracking the progress of your business. So there's, a lot more KPIs that you can be monitoring other than profit margin. And it's going to entirely depend on the industry that you're in and the stage of business that you're in. But when you look at what's going on month to month and you measure your performance against what you had planned for the month, that's when you can identify weaknesses that are going on in your business and you can correct them quickly. And if you've got, great things that are happening, you can capitalize on them.
Absolutely. Which brings me to, I suppose, the next question. What's your advice to somebody whom, you know, because like we say, a lot of people go into business because they're passionate about what it is that they do. They're not necessarily passionate or skilled or have the knowledge around the financial aspects. What
Mhm.
would you recommend somebody do if they, have already identified, hey, I need a little bit of help here?
Yeah. So the first thing I say to everybody I deal with, especially if they're feeling overwhelmed with their finances, and there tends to be a lot of emotion that come with it, like maybe shame or embarrassment that they haven't dealt with this earlier. But we all know as entrepreneurs, there's so many things that we need to tend to. There's so many things that we need to learn. So the first thing I say is go easy on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself and understand that okay, now managing the money in your business is important to you, but you wouldn't have learned how to do this anywhere else, right? Like they're not teaching you out there how to manage the money in your business. So I always say kudos for you for reaching out to get help. Get the help that you need. If you can't afford getting coaching, you can start listening to podcasts, reading articles. There's a lot of free financial information out there that can help you understand how to optimize the profit in your business. And when you do get to that point where you need help and you can afford it, work with a coach who's going to help and help you create that financial plan and ensure that you are looking at your financial reports each and every month so that you are optimizing the profit in your business and you've got that financial plan and goals that you're working towards within your business.
Just fantastic. And this is probably a prime, spot where I should say, if people do want some assistance, then that's exactly what Melissa does too. So you can
Yeah.
reach out to her. And what I'll do is at the end of today's show, I'll make sure that her links are in the show notes and you can head on over to Melissa's website and make contact with her because, like she says, the first step to this is kind of acknowledgement, and she'll help you also be able to overcome maybe some of those money stories that you've got going, running around in your head to help you move forward. One of the things that I think is really interesting to talk about is the reasons why we should, like we should start a business. And I know you talk about this in the sense of you need to think about building your business for maybe someday selling it. So the
Yes.
saleability of your business. So let's talk about that and why is that so important? Because you don't often see business owners thinking about that, right? They think about, oh,
Mhm.
I'm creating myself a job right now, or I'm going to create a business that maybe my children can take over. But not many think about it in the sense of, hey, I actually need to create something that is going to be desirable, profitable for somebody else to purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a topic I really enjoy talking about because not a lot of people are talking about that, right? And what you're doing as you're building your business and you're making your business more profitable, you're increasing the worth of your business. If you start thinking of your business as possibly one of the biggest financial assets that you will own, because as a business owner, you own 100% of your business. Your business generates income for you, it generates revenue, it's generating profit. And if you're managing it well, it's generating a lot of profit for you. So when it's time to wind down, a lot of people just think they're going to shut the doors and that's it. And, the business was good to them and, bless and release. But they're not considering the fact that you can actually sell what you've built so far, right? Because as you're growing your business, there's a lot of assets that you're accumulating for your business. And there are a lot of buyers out there who are more interested in buying a more established business than starting their own. So if you start thinking about how you can set your business up to sell, even if it's 10, 20 years down the road, when you start thinking about it and you set it up in a way that it makes it really saleable and it increases the worth of the business, then what you're doing is you're helping yourself by, bringing in an extra income stream for when you sell your business.
Absolutely. So what are some, like, just set your business up so that it is saleable? What are some of the key things that somebody should be thinking about and maybe implementing in their business? So when the time comes, it might not be next week or next year, but when the time comes that it actually is ready to be marketed for sale.
So you're going to look at your customer list. You're going to look at your financial numbers. This is why knowing your business numbers is so important. So when you're generating revenue and you're generating that profit, these are the things that buyers are going to look at. They're going to look at how much income they can rely on from your business. And you're also going to, account for all the financial assets that you're building. There's trademarks, there's goodwill, which goodwill is your reputation of your business. It's, the customer list, it's customer retention numbers, it's satisfaction, it's reputation. There's so many different types of assets that your business builds within the business that is extremely valuable to buyers. So making sure that you are building a business that it's not your personal brand, whereas somebody can come in and can't do anything. Like if I was to sell my website, Melissa Houston CPA, it would not be worth anything to anybody. Nobody would want to buy it because who else out there has my name? So that's why I have the business society, and the business society is part of my business. It's part of my brand, but it's also set up in a way where I can sell it down the road when I'm ready. So
Mm.
ensuring that you've set it up, there's like kind of a separation between your personal brand and your business brand, and ensuring that you're going to get some value out of this asset is so important.
Mm. And like Melissa said, I think one of, just thinking about your business as an asset, as your, as you say, your biggest asset. Most people would think about their house or their car as a big asset, whereas this, it's something that can, pay you over and over and over again for many years to come,
Mm-hmm.
and with the ability to be able to on sell that to somebody else. Because, like you say, there are people out there that would much prefer to just take on something as a fully operational business and have to start something from scratch. So thinking about all the different assets you have, and even just keeping like an assets register so you know what you've got, because sometimes it's the little things that we forget about: the domains, the websites, so
Yeah.
all the additional things that are not maybe part of the core business, so to speak, the things that you actually sell, but they're all the things that make up the functionality, your SOPs, all of those sorts of operating procedures that you put into your business make it extremely valuable. To stay on, like we've talked about, sort of the saleability. Let's go to something now that scares some people too. It's this whole thing around taxes. So I know that one of the things that you say to people is to take advantage of tax saving strategies. And I know this
Mm-hmm.
is a global, conversation that we're having, and some of the rules and regulations are different, depending on where you are in the world. But there are also some fundamental things that are general across the board. So what are some of the things that you would recommend people do to maybe take advantage of some of the tax saving strategies?
Yes, I always recommend that business owners talk to a tax professional that is licensed in their country, province, or state that they're living in, and
Mm,
get those tax deductions for your business, right? And then, government programs that you can take advantage of that help you and, reward you in some sort of way. Like in Canada, we have tax savings programs like RESPs, RRSPs, we have TFSAs. So there's different programs that we can take advantage of with the government. So make sure that you're talking to somebody who can give you really valuable tax advice. And the best tax advice I'm going to leave business owners with today is when you're creating your financial plan and you're looking at the profit that you're generating each and every month, you want to take a portion of that profit, whatever the average tax rate is for you, whether it's 20%, 30%. If you don't know, be safe, take 30% and put it aside, maybe in a separate bank account or something, so that when it's time to pay your taxes, your corporate taxes at the end of the year, that you're not, slammed with this big bill that you didn't see coming. You have planned for your taxes and you're prepared to pay
mm.
them because taxes are inevitable.
Yeah, yeah, well, they say that, don't they?
Yeah.
Taxes and death are the two things that are inevitable. You have to face them at some point. So
Yeah.
it makes sense to plan for all of these things.
Yeah.
As far as, like somebody starting out and you know, they've got no money to employ even an accountant or to get some help with their finances. What are some basic things, or maybe some tools that they could use that will help them get on top of their finances?
Yeah, there's some great accounting software out there that's free to use and it really simplifies the bookkeeping process. It's called Wave. And
Mm,
having that understanding of what your profit and loss statement is, and also it's known as your income statement, that is the most important financial report that you're going to use in your business. And that tells you how profitable your business is. So by measuring how much you're making on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, and annual basis to ensure that you're not spending more money in expenses than you're bringing in your business is definitely a thing that you should be paying attention to when you're starting out.
mm.
You don't need an accountant to
Interesting.
tell you that you're overspending. You look at it yourself and you'll know yourself, and do not over leverage yourself. And by over leverage, I mean don't take out too much debt.
Yeah, that's an important thing. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people will talk about, you go and get some debt, start yourself off, and you start off in that debted situation and try and work your way out of it. What is your opinion, on somebody giving that sort of advice?
I personally am like I prefer people to start bootstrapping their business right at the beginning. There's so many things that is going to compete for your money, right? When you're starting out, people think that you need the best websites, the best sales funnels, the best of everything, right? So they're spending on marketing and what have you. But what you really need to focus on when you start your business is getting sales. So getting those
Yeah.
customers that are willing to pay. And then with that money, you can reinvest it into your business and invest when you can afford it into the marketing and the advertising. And as things fall into place and your profit grows, you can reinvest, and grow it to where you want it to be. So I'm a firm believer in that because what you're doing is you're growing your business at a comfortable rate. I mean, yes, it may slow down the growth of your business, but not all growth is good growth, right? So it helps keep the risks managed as you're growing, and you're growing your business without any debt, which is fantastic.
Mhm. It's what's interesting that you should say that. Not all growth is good growth. I mean, you heard
Mhm.
at the beginning, my background and the number of businesses that I actually saw go out of business because they actually grew too fast and they couldn't cope with the amount of growth that they were having. They just ran them out of cash. Was a
Exactly.
was a real problem.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other areas that, not so much in the online world, but if you're certainly selling, any type of product, it's your, your turnover. So how long does it take for you to actually get paid? And that can also become a bit of a problem for people, especially if they are, maybe supplying to big, large companies that don't,
Yeah.
might pay on a 90-day cycle. And so you've got to wait,
Exactly.
90 days before you actually get paid, but you have to pay for the product yourself beforehand.
Yeah, such a good point because product based, all your cash goes out the door at the beginning and your cash does not get replenished until you sell off your inventory.
Hmm.
So, and that's why going back to your statistics that you were mentioning earlier, one of the big reasons why businesses fail is cash management.
Yeah, yeah, just your cash flow just not turning fast enough to keep up
Yeah.
with the demand that you have. So really important that you stay on top of those sorts of things, particularly if you have a product based business. So in terms of like some of the things that you like, your big tips that you would give people, other than what we've already spoken about today, that you think are really important for business owners to take on board, what what advice would you give them? And even what advice would you give yourself, maybe, if you're 20 years ago, before you started out as an accountant or started out in your own business, what advice would you have given yourself back then?
Yeah. So the first piece of advice is, do what makes you happy. So if being an entrepreneur makes you happy, go for it. Secondly, when you're an entrepreneur, focus on those sales. Thirdly, is, one thing that we didn't really cover is talking about cash management, right? And what I really want listeners to think about too is if you were to run out of cash, do you have a plan B or a plan C, right? So it's always important to have cash reserves. So, and it can be especially difficult for startups to build a cash reserve. But once you get going and you're able to start keeping some cash aside for emergencies and stuff, they do recommend between 3 to 6 months of operating expenses to keep aside for emergencies because we all know that market fluctuates, global conditions are fluctuating like crazy right now.
Mhm.
But ensure that you've got that cash there so that if you do come into a cash flow issue, you've got plan B in place. But the other thing too is when things are going really, really well, that's when you want to set up plan B or plan C. So if you need loans or lines of credit, that's the time to apply for at the bank because the bank is probably going to reject your application when you need it. So
Mhm.
when things are going well, look at your cash reserve situation, look and see how far of a runway you can go to ensure that you can get through, cash crunch times. It's really important. So that's another thing that I really want.
That actually is a fantastic piece of advice because I have seen that firsthand, and you're absolutely right. Most business owners don't go and ask for lines of credit or for a loan when they don't need it. They wait until, oh my gosh, now we're desperate, let's go and see the bank. And what is the bank going to do? They're going to look at your situation in that moment and see, gosh, are they going to be able to pay this back? And the
Yeah.
likelihood of you being able to get it at that time is fairly slim. So what Melissa, that one piece of advice that she's giving you there is invaluable, and
Hmm.
to take that on board, because I can assure you that you will be in a much better situation if you have to have the conversation that you need to have with your banker, if you're in a good position.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Most definitely. So I know that you've got a book coming out. It's in the process of being
Yes.
written now. So let's talk a
Yes.
little bit about that. And it's going to be, the suspense will kill everybody because it's going to be out in 2023. But, talk to me a little bit about why you decided to go down the path of actually writing a book, and what's the, I mean, I'm assuming, I'm going to make a big assumption here, that it's something to do with finances. So let's talk a little bit about the book, and when we can expect it out, and just there a waiting list or something like that that people can maybe get onto.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the book because I just got a traditional book deal. So it will be being published in a publishing house. So that's why it's going to take until May
Mm,
2023 to get released. but it's very exciting news, and it's called Cash Confident, and it's the entrepreneur's guide to managing your finances. And it's going, like, you're very right, it's all about money management, finances, and business. And the reason why I chose to write a book is because I'm so passionate about helping business owners. It's just another way to reach people, right? So I want to ensure that I'm trying to reach as many people as I possibly can. And that's why it was important for me to um, publish traditionally, so that this book will be in bookstores. It will have a further reach than Amazon. So it'll be, hopefully accessible worldwide, and help business owners with their business finances, because it's just not talked about enough. And when you invest the time that it takes, and it doesn't take, like, people may think it would take years, and it does not take that long to understand how to look at the high level and manage your business finances at the high level. And once you realize that, once you invest that time in learning it, you have invested that, it's never going to leave. And you can use this over and over and over again for years to come. And ultimately what that does is it increases your profit for years and years and years. So it really does pay off. The time that it takes to learn about this gives you a really good ROI for the time.
And I suppose the other thing is, when it comes time for you to sell this business, well, the skill and the knowledge and the information that you've learned and you've picked up will hold you in good stead for the next business, or potentially you even be able to impart that knowledge and information to other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that you also have a podcast, Melissa. So let's tell all of our listeners where they can find you on your podcast, and what sort of things can they expect you to be talking about on the podcast itself. Why should they actually listen to that?
Yeah, so I have the podcast called The Business Society. I started it back in October of 2020. So I'm just approaching my 100th episode, and we have done so many interviews with guests that they're all entrepreneurs, and we talk about the challenges that they faced. So whether they're, just an average Joe like me, or I've had some celebrity guests on as well, such as Rebecca Minkoff and Gretchen Rubin and Oren Klaff. That's just to name a few. We all talk about what happens as an entrepreneur, and regardless of what platforms you have, whether they're huge or they're small or whatever, the common thread between all entrepreneurs is it's not easy. So all my guests talk about the challenges that they faced and how they overcame them, and then on solo episodes we talk about business finance. So it's a great podcast, and I hope that you tune in.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. And also in the show notes today and in the comment section of today's show, there is a link to Melissa's podcast. So I know I want to finish with this, Melissa, because I know that there was a time, like you've mentioned, it's not easy, right? Being a business owner, it isn't easy. Anybody that tells you, hey, it's the fastest way to make cash and life will be easy breezy, it's probably it's lying to you.
Yeah,
It's not
I would
easy.
say.
But is it fun? Is it worthwhile? Absolutely. If you put, the effort in the right areas. Now, I know that some time ago you went through a rough patch where you had to dig yourself out of about $100,000 worth of debt. So
Yes,
let's talk
yes, I
if you're
did.
comfortable to do so, talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about that, and what did you do to make that happen? I just want to make it very real for people today to say, hey, even accountants go through this stuff, but here's some of the stuff that Melissa actually did that worked, that has now got her on the profitable side of business and life.
Yeah, and this ties into how emotional money can be, right? So it was about 6 years ago where I had gone into this time in my life where I just wasn't feeling satisfied. But when I, looked at on the surface, I'm like, I have no reason to be feeling like this because everything on the surface seemed fine. But I started spending money to avoid the feeling of, something missing, right? So spending money,
Mhm.
and it got worse and worse, spending more and more. Fast forward, I ended up blowing through $100,000 worth of credit within 1 year, and I hid 50% of that from my husband. So it was not a good situation to be in. When I did come out the other side, I was like, okay, I need to figure out how I allowed this to happen because I'm a CPA, because I know better. And I know that even while I was spending the money, I knew I shouldn't spend it, but I kept spending it. So it took about 2 years to really figure out what was going on because I would try different things because, like I really didn't know what the issue was. And then I ended up working with a coach who helped me. And I'd never worked with a coach before. And as we peeled back the layers, I quickly realized that the issue that was holding me back or holding me to avoid my feelings and spend money like crazy was that I really wanted to become that entrepreneur. So this is before I started my business, right? And I was not being true to who I was. So my bad behaviors came out in different ways because I was avoiding the situation. So once I learned that, I had to follow who I truly am and take that leap of faith, really is what it was, because I'd left a really good job, really steady income to start my own business. Like it was like a switch that flipped, and I was in it 150%. And it's changed my life. I feel so good. So I think the lesson really that I love to share with people is not only that your mistakes don't define you, but also the importance of being true to who you are.
Yeah, absolutely, so important. And
Mm-hmm.
how fascinating is that manifested itself in the way in which it did,
Yeah.
given that you're in that space. And I love the fact that you're telling this story, because it shows to people that, hey, it's okay, even if, because a lot of people would think, like I've heard people say, I don't feel like I can launch my program, or I can launch my whatever, because who am I to do that? Whereas that story, you're like, no, that was actually the reason that these things were occurring, was because I wasn't being true to who I am. And now I'm
Yeah.
standing in my power and doing the things that I am destined to do because it feels right. It's authentic to me.
Yeah.
It's amazing how momentum kicks in, and you can't help but be successful when you're coming from a place of authenticity and being driven in
Exactly.
that manner. The other thing that, and it'd be great to have you back on another show, and maybe we could talk about this a little bit more. But you mentioned, I'm going to call it financial infidelity, and how that um, happens more frequently than most would like to admit. And maybe that would be a really fascinating and interesting conversation to continue to have with you at some stage, Melissa, so that we
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
maybe unfold and peel back some of the layers of the onion that, you know, that does happen. And what do you do, I suppose, to repair that? Because it could end up being a downward spiral where, oh my
Mhm.
God, I'm just going to keep, the cover up and the cover up and the cover up. And all of a sudden, I don't know how the heck to get myself out of this. So it would be
Yeah.
great to continue to have that conversation at some time. So I just want to say, and because of that, I would love to be able to have you back at another time to
Yeah,
talk
I would
about
love
that a
that.
little bit further, if you're willing to do so.
Yeah.
And we can flesh out a conversation about that. And maybe some of you guys that are listening today, if you've got questions about how to deal with financial infidelity and what to do about that, head on over to tracymwilson.com and shoot me a line. You can shoot me a voice message or a email and just ask that question. I'll be sure to make sure that I ask Melissa your burning questions about financial infidelity in another conversation. It's interesting because somebody's saying here today that, what is she saying? She's saying financial infidelity, saw that so much working as a financial analyst, or analyst, I should say. So Robin Helm was saying that in her past life as a financial analyst, she saw that a lot, and I saw it a
Yeah.
lot too in my previous life. So let's continue that conversation. We go down the rabbit hole on another unlocked show. We'll unlock that Pandora's box of financial infidelity. But for today, I just wanted to say thank you very much for being here and sharing your knowledge and expertise. And I wanted to give you one last opportunity, I suppose, to share any other pearls of wisdom, advice that you would like to just drop to our viewers today. And we'll make sure that we let them know when you're back on the show so that they can tune in to part 2 of Melissa Houston.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything I really want listeners to take away from the conversation today, is that regardless of where you are in your business, what stage you're at, if you're at that point where you realize that money management is important, take that step. And in fact, you can go visit my website, melissahoustoncpa.com, and grab the 5-step roadmap to biz finance freedom. And that outlines the 5-step framework, the cash confident framework that I was talking about. So, what you need to understand as a business owner on that high level understanding of money management in your business. So, make sure that you're looking at your financials and optimizing the profit in your business, because that is what you get to take home.
So important. Well, look, Melissa, I want to say thank you very much for joining us on today's Unlock show. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in and has been listening today. Don't forget, if you are over listening on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and also the little bell so that you do not miss a beat. And you can head on over to Tracy M. Wilson and also subscribe so that you can get newsletters and emails from me just with all of the great tips that our guests drop inside of our Unlock show. And I'll be back again with another episode of the Unlock Show Friday, 10 a.m. And as you guys know, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Brisbane time. So thanks so much for joining me. And that's it for today's episode. I'll see you guys again on Friday. Bye for now. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank